Hi, welcome to IAS Factor by LearnStroke, and you're listening to the current affairs class for 2020 for UPSC Prelims. So let's discuss the important topics. And today we'll have a science and technology class. So I have picked out very important topics from the newspapers and current affairs which can appear in the examination and which are normally a type of questions that UPSC normally ask for the exam. So I'm just trying to pick it out. So yes, in the meanwhile, I am Arjun R. Shankar, and you can check out and read about me more in this profile section. And as you know, all the newspaper are content are sourced from the Hindu, Indian Express, and the Press Information Bureau. And if you want to watch this class, you can even watch this class at 1.5x if you're okay with the speed, or else normally do it. And meanwhile, do subscribe to our channel LearnStroke IAS Factor by LearnStroke, and download LearnStroke IAS app from the Play Store if you want to watch classes and get the courses and read details more about this. And let's importantly immediately go into the content of today's session. What are we going to discuss? Today we are going to discuss about what is Interact, an important topic that has appeared in the newspaper. So, International Network for Terrestrial Research and Monitoring in the Arctic. It is Interact, and the importance of Arctic climate data. What role is Arctic climate data? Some of the topics might be from an environmental perspective too, but it has got science and technology importance. And very important, know the difference between Arctic and Antarctic sea ice. How are they different? What are the important trends that we have to analyze from this? And what is the concept of SCANNET? What is SCANNET? And what is permafrost? And what are the impacts of melting permafrost on the earth, and as well as for the humans? What is the impact of melting permafrost? And the other important areas are from the areas of space, like what is SCAM or collision avoidance maneuver, and what is IS4M. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but definitely from India's perspective, the IS4 or M facility, India's commitment, and what is India's space preparedness, and what is IADC, which is Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee. What do you mean by that? And very similarly, what is COPUOS, the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space? What is this? And what is UNUSA, United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs? And next is India's debris-free missions. By 2030, India is going to achieve this. What do you mean by that? And next is from what is quark clumping dynamics, or what are quarks? Why are they very essential for the studies, and what is quark clumping dynamics? And in this context, what are gluons? And know something about the QCD or quantum chromodynamics. What do you mean by that? And know about Vikram lander and Pragyan rover. What are they and what are their functions? And the last one being the Bharatiya Antariksha Station, or BAS. And lastly, we have a map. Like every class will have a map decoding session. So a lot of topics to cover. So let's not waste time and let's immediately go into each and every content. Here we go to the first one. What is Interact? This is the logo that you're seeing, the International Network for Terrestrial Research and Monitoring in the Arctic. So it is something to do with Arctic, that is very clear. So this is the logo that you see here. What is Interact? Let's understand. Now you got the meaning. Now let's go. So the definition, definitely International Network for Terrestrial Research and Monitoring in the Arctic, number 1 point. It's an initiative. That is point number 2. Why is it actually existing? It is actually existing in facilitating research in Arctic. Very important. It's actually terrestrial research. It's actually facilitating terrestrial research in the Arctic and neighboring alpine environment. Very important. It's in the Arctic and in the neighboring alpine environment. So that is one. And it is operating under the SCANNET umbrella. The SCANNET definitely is going to be a next important topic that I'm going to tell you. So immediately understand that Interact is a part of SCANNET, which includes a diverse network of terrestrial field bases across the Arctic region. So this is alpine environment and Arctic. So which are this? Like Northern Europe, you can see the Northern Europe, the United States, the Canada, Greenland, Iceland, and the Faroe Islands and Scotland. So all these areas, it's a group. SCANNET is also a group. Interact is actually a part of initiative. So anything you need to get a research in Arctic is the most important function of Interact. Now let's understand more in detail. So take a look at this. This is the logo that I just showed you. Interact, reducing plastic consumption and pollution in the Arctic research. So Interact is a very good initiative regarding the Arctic. So know about this. So what is the main objective? One, capacity building, definitely understanding, one, predicting and responding to various environmental changes across Arctic's environment. So what is happening to the Arctic? Understanding, predicting and responding to Arctic's atmosphere, Arctic's climate. Number one. And what are the challenges posed by Arctic's vast and populated landscape, which limits environmental observation? And more. So you need to know what are the challenges. Definitely there are challenges. What is so in general, what is happening to Arctic? The research is important. That is part of Interact. So please understand there are thousands of scientists who are working in glaciology, permafrost, climate, ecology, biodiversity, biogeochemical cycling, who are all working as a part of the Interact program. So it's a collaboration by improving the efficiency of sensor network for environmental monitoring and make data storage and access more streamlined through unified data portal. So they are planning to have a unified data portal in which all the details regarding the Arctic is available. So it's also important. Arctic also plays a vital role in education and public awareness about Arctic, and it also outreach programs and key publications. So there is also key publications regarding the knowledge of Arctic, and you can even example the Princess Elizabeth Station, part of Interact, integrate zero emission technology, showcasing a commitment to reducing the footprint of scientific community. So there are networks effort is minimizing the environmental impact in the research station. So one such research station is the Princess Elizabeth Station, so which has integrated zero emission technologies. So many stations are all working together under Interact. So that is now also important, that is regarding Interact. And why next is regarding the Arctic climate data. Why do we need Arctic climate data is the next important. Like we need to know the harsh weather and polar bears are damaging the equipments. Many scientists are complaining that in this Arctic regions, the harsh weather condition and polar bears are damaging the equipments, which is hampering the research process in the Arctic. And the Russian collaboration has collapsed. That is a big negative. Russia was a big time supporter. The Russia collaboration has collapsed, created a blind spot in Arctic data collection, impacting the ability to track climate changes accurately. Russia is not supporting this. So Russia has backed out. So this is another important. This can all be important for the prelim statements. Arctic is warming nearly 4 times faster than the rest of the world. So the definitely global warming has been discussed. 4 times it is warming. So Earth systems model used to understand ecological systems and the Arctic show that Russian data is omitted. That is a very negative thing for the data collection. Russia is backed out. So definitely understand this 4 time warming stats. Remember the statistics also very clearly. Okay, so that was regarding some of the important. Yes, this is also, we have already discussed this concept clearly. So that was all regarding Interact and why it is important, why climate data is also important for the Arctic region. So have a clean idea regarding the Arctic station. Now let's understand what is the difference between Arctic and Antarctic ice. Look at this. The Antarctic ice. Look at this. The picture is very careful. The Arctic is more sparsely located, so it's more densely. So why are they different? Or where is Arctic and Antarctic? Let's understand. So when you look at the map, please understand that Antarctica is in the southern side, and you can see in the topmost side, this is the Arctic Ocean. So as you know, this is the Earth, and definitely it's a spherical thing. So when you look at the map, please understand Antarctica comes on the lower side and Arctic is on the upper side. Please understand. Okay, to get this time. So what is the difference between Arctic and Antarctic? It is basically geographical. That is number one. Arctic is an ocean covered by a thin layer of perennial sea ice. What do you mean by and surrounded by land? Definitely Arctic has perennial sea ice. Perennial refers to the oldest and thickest sea ice. You must have read about perennial waters, perennial rivers, and mountainous rivers and perennial. You must have heard this thing. So it contains oldest and thickest sea ice, Arctic. Antarctica, on the other hand, is a continent covered by a very thick ice cap and surrounded by a rim of sea ice and the Southern Ocean. Very, very important. Antarctica consists of the Southern Ocean. It's very thick ice cap, and please understand the difference. Arctic is an ocean covered by thin. It's a thin layer of perennial sea. You can. It's actually very clear from the picture itself. You can see Antarctica is more thick, and that is Arctic is more thin layer of perennial ice. The picture shows this very clearly. It's more thin, and Arctic on the other side is very thick ice caps. It has got Southern Ocean. Antarctica has got Southern Ocean, and it is perennial Arctic. So know the difference, and also understand the Arctic Ocean is very deep and closely linked with climate systems around it, making it more sensitive to climate change. So when you take Arctic and Antarctica, you will understand that one of the most important thing is Arctic is more sensitive to climate change than Antarctica. So that is very important point, because it is more sensitive. And we often get the questions like Arctic and Antarctic, what is the difference between this area? So also please understand the Arctic sea ice has declined over the past 5 decades. In 50 years, the Arctic sea has declined. The Antarctic sea has also, Antarctic sea has increased and then it has declined. So please look at this. I'll show you a graph, a detailed graph also. You can see the Arctic is in blue, Antarctica is in the orange or the red color. You can see that the Arctic is declining. The Arctic is coming down, it's declining, it's consistently declining, which is very clear. In the last 50 years, you can closely look at this. At least look at 1978 graph, and you can clearly understand that at least in the last, Arctic sea has declined over the sea, and Antarctic sea has increased, but it has declined then. You can see Antarctic has actually, you can see this peak. You can see this peak at this point. It has peaked, then it has decreased, and then it is increasing, and maybe sometime after it will again decrease. So Antarctic thing has increased, then it has declined, and you can see the Arctic line has completely declined. So please understand, Arctic is more sensitive than the Antarctic, which is very clear. So from 1979 to 12, Arctic sea underwent a strong decline. That is the word. Antarctic sea ice underwent a slight increase, although some regions of Antarctic experienced strong decline. So please remember this graph, very important. This graph is very, very important for you to understand this major thing. So please, I said Arctic is more sensitive to various things. So imagine that Arctic sea ice losses and the human burning of fossil fuels in all months, there is a strong relationship. Very, very important, because Arctic has more thing. You can see what is aerosols. Tiny particles suspended in the atmosphere tied to human activities have often offset some of the Arctic sea extent loss. A reduction in air pollution will likely. So you can see that even aerosols has contributed to the decrease in Arctic sea ice. It is very sensitive. If you can reduce the aerosol pollution, we can see an acceleration. You can see an acceleration. So definitely aerosol is also an important factor. And ice loss at the sea's margin results in wind driving warmer water beneath the Arctic sea ice, increasing the amount of heat Arctic Ocean stores. So definitely Arctic Ocean is storing the heat. You can see that it has driven warmer water beneath the Arctic Sea. So definitely Arctic is more sensitive. This is very clear. So that was regarding this topic. And moving on to the next is, what is SCANNET? I told you SCANNET is an umbrella term. It's very much related to what is called as interact. It is very much related to the concept of interact regarding the Arctic. So let's understand what is SCANNET. Let's take an idea about this. So what is SCANNET? SCANNET is a circumpolar Arctic network that operates under the framework of Interact project. I told you Interact, that the project that we discussed on Arctic, is linked to the SCANNET. It's a circumpolar Arctic network. Contains more than 80 terrestrial field stations spread across Europe, Russia, United States, Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Faroe Island. So this is very similar to Interact. More than 80 networks are under the SCANNET. So what is the primary role of SCANNET? Is to support the infrastructure and coordination of the stations to do environmental research. So one is infrastructure and coordination support is the duty of SCANNET. So it's part of Interact. It supports the infrastructure and coordination activity. So it is also helping identifying, understanding, predicting Arctic's changes. This is the same thing that we read for Interact also. So it also supports glaciology, permafrost, climate change, ecology. So SCANNET, very much similar. It's a part of the Interact. But SCANNET takes care of the infrastructure and coordination activity. Okay, so now let's move on to what is permafrost. We have been hearing about the study of permafrost. So what is this concept of permafrost and how is it? What happens to the earth or the nature when the melting of permafrost is happening? This might be a new term if you know this. See, take a look at this picture. There is soil, there is vegetation, and there is ice. So all this is permafrost. Let's quickly understand. So permafrost simply refers to a ground, number one, which has remained frozen for 2 or more consecutive years. So it's a ground which is actually frozen for 2 or more consecutive years. That is permafrost. So it consists of soil, sediment, or rock that stays at or below freezing temperature, 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, for a significant portion of the year, usually in the regions with cold climate, polar region, or high mountainous areas. So please understand, it contains soil, sediment, or rock that stays below freezing point for over a year or two. Take a look at this. You can see the soil, the sediment, or you can see the ice. It has the rock which has got frozen. You can see for more than 1 or 2 years, it is the same combination. This is permafrost. So the permafrost can vary in thickness ranging from few meters to 100 meters or deep. It contains what? Mixtures of ice, soil, organic matter, often preserving ancient plants and animals. So this statement is very, very important. This is what defines permafrost. Ice, soil, organic matter, ancient plant and animal remains. You can take a look at this picture. It has got soil, sediments, rocks, ice, water, everything, organic plants. So this is all, the combination of all this is permafrost. So the freezing and thawing of permafrost play a critical role in shaping landscape and influence ecosystem. So definitely you know what do you mean by freezing. So what is the concept of thawing? I'm sure you must have read this in geography. If not, we can revise it now. What is the concept of thawing? Thawing, or let's understand, the thawing refers to the process of melting or defrosting something that was previously frozen. So it means melting or defrosting. You must have seen that you must have defrosted your fridge. So melting or defrosting, that is a key important word. So transition from a solid frozen state to a liquid state as a result of increase in temperature. Please understand, from a solid thing, it is actually going to a liquid state, that is melting, or defrosting is thawing. So thawing commonly occurs in nature during warmer seasons. So temperature, when the temperature increases, definitely defrosting can happen. When ice or snow melts, turning into water. In a broader sense, thawing can refer to the relaxation or easing of tension, restriction, or rigid in a. So please understand, the previous slide we discussed, the freezing and thawing means defrosting or melting can affect the ecosystem in different manners. That is what we have to discuss here. So let's go to the next important content and how it can impact. So thawing of permafrost due to climate change is a growing concern. You know, thawing means melting of permafrost. Temperature increase can cause a big important thing. It can release greenhouse gases like methane, carbon dioxide contributed. So permafrost, because all the soil, organic thing, there is a lot of gases trapped inside the permafrost. When the permafrost is melting or defrosting, it can release the gases upwards. And it also poses risk to infrastructure, buildings, roads, pipelines built top on it as the ground becomes less stable. So let's understand, let's take in some of the important thing. So impact is release of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane. uh, it is accumulated over a millennia, hundreds and thousands of years. It is actually accumulated inside. Once the permafrost melt, the gases is released out. So this can accelerate global warming. Very important point. So greenhouse gases. And next is impact on our infrastructure. So the permafrost thaw, the ground becomes very unstable. It is actually melting, leading to damage in buildings, pipelines, roads, etc. It can pose a safety concern for humans also. And it can even change the landscapes, like thermokarst or erosion. Thermokarst occurs when the ice-rich permafrost melts and the ground subsides, forming uneven terrains and sometimes results in creation of new lakes. So this is the new term. What is thermokarst? This is again, thermokarst means normal permafrosting, ice is melting and the ground subsides, uneven terrains are formed, and that is even creating new lakes. So this is what is called as thermocrast. And erosion can increase permafrost and riverbanks and coastlines. So definitely understand what is thermokarst. So all this can change landscape also. And definitely habitats will be, biodiversity will be altered, and it can affect water system, underground water system. It can change the flow of rivers and streams, affect the quality of fresh water, impact life, aquatic life. So a lot of changes, flow of river, underground water. So it can even release gases also. So these are the important. Thawing means melting of permafrost, and I hope you understood what is the concept of permafrosting. Okay, now let's immediately go into the another important aspect of space. Space is very important. We are talking about space. Means take a look at this. Look at the earth. Actually, I'll give you another important picture where you can see how crowded this space is. Once the space was a very free space, it was very free, and look at the space now. It is so much crowded with satellites and objects that are floating in the space. So definitely know that. Have you ever felt that maybe this one will collide with this one, or this one will collide with this one, or this, both of this can collide with each other? How do you manage that? And whatever things, space is now full of debris. There are unwanted items which is floating in the space, which is also called as the space debris. So everything is related. So what do you think about whether these two things will collide with each other? Now let's discuss what is collision avoidance maneuver. Let's understand, or CAM. So collision avoidance maneuver are critical for maintaining the safety of satellites and other space objects. As I told you, there are two important satellites like this which are very near. We should make sure that this is not colliding. This should not collide. Given the increasing congestion in the Earth's orbit, these maneuvers are essential for preventing collision. CAM is very important, that you prevent the collision that could create space debris. See, if there are two important things like this floating with each other, there are two important space objects or satellites or objects or spaceships. This is actually colliding. Once, what will happen? It will collide, it will blast off, and it will release a lot of particles like this. It will create a lot of particles which will float. This is debris. So we do not want this debris. So the CAM or collision avoidance maneuver can prevent collision between satellites or objects in the space. So definitely this can prevent the space debris. And also look at the European Space Agency is developing automated system. It's completely automated to enhance the efficiency of collision avoidance. So you need to know that if one part is like this is one thing, and another thing is here. So if it is actually going straight, it will definitely be colliding. So it will alter the course like this. You need to go and be at this point. So you have to maneuver it. Rather than going straight, if you go straight, it will collide. So you will actually change the course. Collision avoidance. You avoid the collision and you move it. And that is dependent upon various things, like you should measure the velocity. Everything is dependent. You actually change the course. Do not hit. So this can use collision. So definitely collision avoidance maneuver is also a part of this. Now let's understand the other important aspects. The process of executing a CAM involves several challenges, like dense debris environment in popular orbital paths. It's very dense debris are there. and satellite often receive multiple collision warnings per week. Requiring constant vigilance and rapid response is very important. There should be a team which should actually monitor that you get weekly vigilance and warnings that it will hit, A and B is going to hit. So surveillance data and the proximity of collision is all important. You need to have a very good team for this. Now let's see, understand how this collision avoidance maneuverability or the CAM works. Satellites are constantly monitored by ground station, number one, and other tracking systems detect any potential collision threats, whether A or B is going to collide. And it also tracks the pieces of debris. It also tracks, sometimes it can, a debris or an item can even collide with another object or a satellite. So when a potential collision threat is detected, when there is a threat, a sophisticated software calculates the probability of the collision based on the trajectory and the speed of the satellite. And that is why, if you have seen that this is an important satellite and there are few debris like this which is moving, and this can come and hit it, this can come and hit called something called a satellite called A. You actually calculate, the software calculate the probability of the collision. What is the probability that it will actually come and hit A, and the trajectory, look at the trajectory that is coming in, and what is the speed and velocity of how it is going to come. If the probability of the collision exceeds a certain threshold, a decision is made to perform a collision avoidance maneuver. So you feel that definitely this thing called B is going to hit at A. There is no other chance. The collision probability exceeds a certain threshold. There is definitely, it is going to collide. That means then you put a CAM or a collision avoidance maneuver, and definitely at the current mission, it also depends upon the satellite, the fuel level, and the potential consequences of a collision. So you do a collision avoidance maneuver. So I think once a decision is made, a specific maneuver plan is created. This involves calculating the necessary changes in velocity that will adjust the satellite's orbit just to miss the approaching object. So as I said, this is A. There is one object coming called B. It is actually coming and hitting at A. So you'll calculate the velocity and you make sure you do the CAM, you maneuver it so that it doesn't hit. So the satellite then uses its onboard thrusters to execute the maneuver. So this might involve speeding up, slowing down, or changing the direction to move into a safer orbit. You can speed up, slow down, or change the direction. So this is what is meant by CAM, or so please understand this. This CAM is very, very important. Please, this is what is called as the maneuverability. And now let's understand what is this IS4OM or the ISFORM facility and India space preparedness. Let's discuss. You can see this, the chairman of ISRO, it's IS4OM. I'm sorry, I'm not, I did not check it out actually how this is pronounced. So very sorry on that. Maybe you know it better. So understand what is IS4OM. So it stands for Systems for Safe and Sustainable Operation Management. This is simply systems for IS4. So India has established this systems for safe and sustainable operations management in Bangalore. This is a system that we have created. And another important thing is SSA. What is the concept of SSA? India has also set up Space Situational Awareness Station. We have an SSA station in position. So what is this SSA? So know what is safe and sustainable operations management is for. So this is dedicating to space situational awareness. So what does this do? It provides comprehensive and timely information about the space environment, helps in monitoring the probability of an in-orbit. So it is actually keeping in space environment, it is tracking the space environment for what? Probability of an in-orbit collisions. We just discussed the collision maneuverability, and support strategic and research activity relating to space debris and SSA, the Space Situational Awareness Station. So space debris, situational awareness, and to track the in-orbit collisions, you need to have this. India is also prepared for this. So ISRO has also demonstrated its commitment to mitigate space debris through controlled re-entry mission. So, for instance, ISRO has successfully carried out a controlled re-entry of the decommissioned the megatropics, the MT1 satellite, to minimize the risk associated with space debris. So it has actually done this. We have actually controlled it. India has got this controlled re-entry mission. What is this controlled re-entry mission? We need to make sure that we do not collide with the debris which is actually out there. So example is, we carried out a controlled re-entry of the decommissioned MTI, and which was actually having a lot of space debris in the LEO or the low Earth orbit. So India is also carrying out. So the control center, the Space Situational Awareness Control Center, established in 2020, serves as the hub of all activities within India. So that is why SSA, the Space Situational, it has actually come out with this. You can check out this. Yes, Space Situational Awareness. That is a Space Situational Awareness Center, Control Center. In 2020, it's tracking everything. Like it's tracking the space assets, planning the collision avoidance maneuvers. So all these things is actually done by SSA. Indian Space ISRO is also equipped with this. So please remember, the Space Situational Awareness Control Center is also very, very important. It takes care of all the aspects regarding scam and other things. And please also understand, important organization that we are going to learn is what is IADC, Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee, and what is COPUOS, or United Nations Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. Let's quickly understand what are these organizations. Let's quickly do this. What is IADC, or Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee? Now you know that what is debris, what is maneuvering, so what are the challenges. You've already understood this. So what is IADC? Let's quickly understand. It's an international governmental forum, definitely focused on coordinating global efforts to address what? Space debris. We need to have a clean space. So IADC is an international forum aimed at achieving or addressing the space debris. Created in 1993, it includes major space agencies like NASA, European Space Agencies, the Russian Roscosmos, and many other space agencies. India is also working very closely with IADC. So definitely you should know what you mean by IADC. So it also has different plans on space debris mitigation activity. So it also has a mitigation plan. And it also has the Space Debris Mitigation Guidelines, a framework that influence both national and international policies. So who releases the Space Debris Mitigation Guidelines? You can get in the prelims. It is the IADC, which is releasing the Space Debris Mitigation Guidelines. So please remember this very carefully. So that is all about IADC. And what is COPOUS? The COPUOS, the United Nations Committee. So please understand it. The Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space is UN COPUOS. Many of you might not have heard about this organization. Please know about. We are discussing about science and technology and space. It's very important that you know about all this concept. So again, the United Nations Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, the COPUOS, is a key framework under the UN framework. It is established in 1959 to oversee and promote the peaceful exploration of outer space. So this talks about outer space. IADC talks about space debris. It was created in 1993. This in 1959. So what is the main responsibility of COPUOS? Cooperation in outer space. So everything now is related to outer space. So outer space exploration. So this one is completely on outer space, managing this. And let's understand some of the important key aspects of that. So the COPUOS meets annually in Austria and Vienna. That is very important point. It meets in Austria. So it talks about various space related, like outer space for peaceful purpose, safe operation in the orbit, managing space debris, space weather, threats from asteroids, safe use of nuclear power in outer space, even nuclear power in outer space, everything. All this is the ultimate duty of the COPUOS, meets in Austria. So it also deals about climate change, water management, global navigation, satellite, space laws, and national space legislation. So COPUOS is a big organization which deals with all this activity. You can read it. So it plays a big role in developing and overseeing the implementation of various on the outer space. So that is a key word. So whatever I've written, outer space activity, it is a very important area. So that is all about this. And let's immediately, what is UNUSA? United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. So a lot of COPUS, IADC and UNUSA might be a new thing. United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. So please understand, United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. That is UNUSA, the keyword UNUSA. Know about this. And let's move on. It's a critical arm of the United Nations that promotes international cooperation. This is also an important office for outer space. It is actually, UNUSA acts as the secretariat for the committee. So if there is COPUS, so if COPUS is there, UNUSA is the secretariat of this. So it's even a much more higher step. It is the secretariat of this COPUS, focusing on outer space. So please remember, it is a secretariat of the COPUS. And one thing, let's understand key important points. UNUSA talks about access for space to all program. Very important. Access to space for all program is a part of UNUSA. So please understand, I'll tell you a few important missions. Access to space for all is a part of UNUSA. And now let's discuss UN Spider program. What is this UN Spider program? So it also has important like space treaties and UN Spider program. So UN Spider program is UNUSA's leverage-based program, space-based program for disaster risk reduction and emergency response. Please remember, this is very, very important. Just like we discussed the previous thing, and space for access to space for all program, UNUSA's next important is UN Spider, disaster risk reduction and emergency response. And it also works for disasters also. So this is UN Spider program of the UNUSA. And now let's understand, there is another important which is also called as Global International Committee on the Global Navigation Satellite System, or the ICG. What is the ICG? It's the International Committee on Global Navigation System. This is related to civil satellite based positioning, navigation, timing, etc. So this is another thing of ICG, the UN Spider. This is all related to satellite for navigation. So please understand, UNUSA has got a lot of other important programs which are important. So, and also another important thing called Space for Women. All this can be asked in the prelim. Space for Women, UN Spider program, ICG, access to space for all program. Everything is part of UNUSA. Encourage women and girls to pursue education careers in space industries. So Space for Women is also part of UNUSA. So that is all regarding this. And now we are all discussing now. Let's India's debris free. This is an Indian mission. Look at the debris. You can see the white color thing, that is the debris. By 2005, look at 2018, it's very crowded. Too much of space debris means waste particles which is floating in the space. Now look at 2030. What will be 2030? It's completely with debris. So if you do not keep this, the space will be completely with space debris, and it will be, after some point it will be very difficult for even the collision avoidance maneuverability. The cam will also be difficult to operate. Now let's see what is India's target on that. ISRO chairman announced that by 2030 we will achieve debris free space mission, which is a very good thing by India. And India is also coordinating with IADC, space agency, which we have just discussed it. And all space actors, including government and non-governmental entities, conduct space missions without leaving debris in space. This is Indian mission by 2030. Currently, there are 54 spacecrafts along with non-functional object in the space put by India. By 2030, we'll make sure that no debris will exist. So we'll take careful action to dispose or remove space objects and ensure safe deorbiting. Safe deorbiting. Remember the Megatropics 1, MTI 1. So we are committed to deorbiting and safely disposing all the future spacecraft without debris. And please remember, Bharatiya Antariksha Station is also very important. This we'll discuss this concept in the later part. And now let's discuss another important topics. What are quarks? Definitely you must have heard this in science and technology. This is definitely occupying the current affairs. what is this quark and what do you mean by quark clumping dynamics. I'll simply explain in the most simple manner. I'll explain this concept. Let's immediately understand. So please understand, atoms is the basic unit of matter. You know that. Atoms is a basic unit of matter consisting of what? Protons, neutrons, and electrons. So clear? So atom then consisting of basic proton, neutron, and electron. You have read in your smaller classes. So proton and neutrons are made up of smaller particle called as quarks. That is important. Proton and neutrons, not electrons. Proton and neutron are made up of even smaller particles which are called quarks. So next understand, quarks cannot exist independently and they form a group. They cannot exist independently. They form a group which are always which are called as hadrons. They form a group called as hadrons, such as protons or neutrons. So they cannot exist independently. So recent studies have shed light on how quarks clump together, revealing new insights into the behavior and interaction. So clumping means coming together. That is the quark clump dynamic. Let's understand more. So research say that the 3 quark clumps are more likely to form than the 2 quark. So the 2 quark coming together, so it's all together 2 is the 3 quarks coming together, clumping together is more likely than the 2 is what the research says. And now let's also understand, neutron stars formed from collapsed stars have extremely dense interiors where matter may transition to a state called quark matter. So neutron star is also important. So this is also an important area for the exam. What are neutron star? They are formed from the collapsed stars. So neutron stars are formed from the collapsed stars and they can actually transition into what we call as a quark state of matter. So let's understand another important aspect. The picture that you're seeing is a neutron star. This is a neutron star, is a remnant that forms from the gravitational collapse of a massive star after it has undergone a supernova explosion. So a neutron star forms from a remnant of, or just like we have discussed in the, it's actually created from a collapsed star. That is the collapsed star. Not only collapse, it has undergone a supernova explosion. Once it is that, the neutron star expands or comes into origin. So such things are important. Neutron stars are incredibly dense and small in size, typically about 20 kilometers in diameter, yet neutron star contain more mass than sun. Very important points. So know about neutron stars. Neutron stars, after some point, it can transition to what? A quark state. So that is it. And now let's see what are quark clumping. The quarks clump together due to the strong force, which is one of the 4 fundamental forces in nature. So how does this come together? Quarks clump, how do they happen? It's something which is mediated by particles. It is mediated by a particle called gluons. Very, very important. They are the particle called gluons. And this force is responsible for binding quarks together to form protons, neutrons, and other hadrons. So definitely quarks clump together with a strong force which is supported by a particle called as gluon. So this again we'll discuss what is gluon. So that is very important. The concept of gluon is important. So why is quark matter crucial for understanding? It is very important for understanding neutron stars. We just discussed what is neutron stars, which is created from a collapsed star after a supernova explosion. And very important to quark is very important to understand neutron stars, like nuclear fusion and star formation. It's very important that you know. And quarks come in 6 flavors and have properties like color, charge. They are held together by gluons and cannot exist independently. We have discussed. Physicists have observed state of matter called quark gluon plasma at extreme energies resembling conditions. So just after the Big Bang, you know that the universe expanded, universe created after a Big Bang. After a Big Bang, there is a condition which is very similar, what is called as quark gluon plasma. So that is also something that we have to understand. What is a quark gluon plasma? Now let's understand what are gluons. That is the particles which is mediating the quark clumping. So what is gluons and what is quantum chromodynamics. Let's quickly understand what are all these concepts. So gluons are fundamental particles that play a crucial role in the theory of quantum chromodynamics, which is a part of the standard model of particle physics. Very clear. And please know, gluons help quark to clump together. They act as exchange particles for the strong force between quarks, binding quarks together to form proton, neutrons, and other hadrons. So this is something that we discussed. This is the important particle which is actually mediating quarks to bind together, forming proton, neutron, and hadrons. So it very important. They also carry quarks, and gluons, they carry color charge, the property mediated by strong force allowing them to interact. So it has got color charge. Very, very important. They have color charge. Know about this concept. And the research on gluons has explored various quark gluon plasma, or QGP. I told you, just after the Big Bang, the atmosphere, the situation, or the state of matter believed to have existed after the Big Bang, we can see there is something called as quark gluon plasma. And this is recreated in high energy ion collisions at facilities like Large Hadron Collider in CERN. So gluon, know about this. And the quark gluon plasma just after the Big Bang is very similar to that. So the studies of CERN have made understanding on the QGP. And for example, you can even understand the QGP or the quark gluon plasma. You got an example. The speed of sound in the QGP has been measured to be about half the speed of light, which is testaments its a unique property as a medium. So the speed of sound. What is the speed of sound? Speed of sound in QGP, in the the quark gluon plasma, is about the half of the speed of the light. So all these are important things that we have to understand. Now let's quickly move on to one of the last topics. Chandrayaan 2 is something that we have discussed. What was Vikram lander and Pragyan rover? So this is the lander, you can see in the picture, and rover means it is actually moving. It has got some tires to move it on. So let's know what is Vikram lander and Pragyan rover in detail. So Vikram, which was named after Vikram Sarabhai, was the father of Indian space program. It was created to create a soft landing. Why? It was created to do a soft landing on the lunar surface, and the objective including demonstrating the ability to perform a soft landing and operate a robotic rover on the moon. So they wanted to create a robotic rover. So you can see the lander. It carried instruments like study lunar surface, measure moonquakes like earthquakes, analyze the lunar atmosphere. So all this was important. So soft landing, Vikram. So you can see Vikram lander in the Prayag was launched in 29 about the GSLV Mark III rocket. And all this. So data's different. So definitely it was actually created on this. Now let's take a look at this. The lander successfully completed its rough braking phase, but lost its communication with ISRO just before 2.1 kilometers above the lunar surface. Subsequent attempts to re-establish communication was unsuccessful. Later, it's supposed to have been crash landed. So that is Vikram. You should have an idea what is this Vikram lander and Pragyan rover. Now let's take a look at the Pragyan part. So now let's take a look at the Vikram carried 3 scientific payloads to conduct subsurface experiments, including. So Vikram had 3 scientific payloads to conduct surface and subsurface experiments like seismometer to study moonquakes and thermal conductivity of the lunar surface and measure the density and of the lunar exosphere. So all this was a part of Vikram. Moonquakes. So Pragyan, which means wisdom in Sanskrit, was a 6-wheeled robotic vehicle designed to move on the lunar surface and perform on-site chemical analysis. So this is 6-wheeled robotic vehicle, and this Pragyan consists of APXS, which is very important, alpha particle X-ray spectrometer, and LIPS, which means laser induced breakdown spectroscope. All this was actually on Pragyan. Alpha, the APXS, and LIPS were all part of that. So please know about this. So the rover plan was to operate on one lunar day, which is 14 Earth days, and was expected to cover a distance of 500 meters. And it was actually on relied on solar energy, and go into sleep mode during the lunar night, surviving the extreme cold. So that is all about Pragyan. And before we end this session, let's finish off this with this context. What is Antariksha Station? Bharatiya Antariksha Station, or BAS, or something very important like the ISS International Space Station. Last topic, and let's discuss. The BAS, or Bharatiya Antariksha Station, is an ambitious project by ISRO to establish India's own space station. The modular space station is planned to be assembled in orbit in multiple phases, with an initial basic model launch targeted for 2028 and full operational by 2035. India 28, multiple phases it will be launched. 2028 the basic thing, and by 2035 fully capable. It weighing around 25 tons and will approximately 400 kilometers above the Earth. Very important. And let's look at it. Will serve multiple purpose, including a microgravity study, international research collaboration, study of space biology, medicine, and it will designs. The space station's design includes a crew command module, habitat module, propulsion module, docking pods, forming a hub for scientific experiments and development in space. So all this will be there on the BAS. So all this thing that we have discussed will be there on the BAS, just like the ISS. You can see this. So construction of BAS is inspired from the International Space Station assembly method, which involves incremental assembly in space. So this approach allows for flexibility in design and expansion and reduces the risk with launching a fully built station from the Earth. Just like ISS, BAS will be model. So a rigorous planning architecture is needed to create. So let's hope that the first round of this test is slated in 2025. So let's test it in 2025, put it in 2028, and by 2035, fully operationalize Bharatiya Antariksha Station. So this is a broader vision of the India's capability in exploration of space, and potentially leading to economic activities based on lunar resources by 2040. It's a crucial year. It's India's vision of space. So Bharatiya Antariksha Space. So that is all regarding the important topics of today's science and technology. Now let's discuss important one map which is in the current affairs. Let's take an important country, and today's country is Turkey. Look at the borders. Which all countries Turkey is sharing borders? You can take a look at this, how vastly Turkey is spread across. You can say Istanbul is here, Ankara, which is all important cities of Turkey. And you can see this tide from Georgia to Armenia, to Iran, to Iraq, to Syria, with Cyprus, very important, Cyprus, and even an access to Mediterranean Sea. And it goes from the few islands of Greece and slowly going from Bulgaria. Wow, look at how many countries are this. So look at the Mediterranean Sea, the Aegean Sea, all a part of this. So look at the countries: Georgia, Armenia, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Cyprus, Bulgaria, Greece are all bordering the parts of Turkey. So look at this, the Mediterranean Sea, and look at Cyprus. Cyprus is very close, but having this idea, Cyprus connected is very important. It's actually not getting connected. Syria is connected, and Greece, parts of Greece, Bulgaria, and look at Turkey. And this side of the Turkey, you can see the Strait of Bosporus. Very important, know about the Strait of Bosporus and the Black Sea. Turkey, on one side you have completely this port and parts of Georgia. Look at that. Georgia is again connected with Russia. See Rise, Ordu, Sinop, Samson, Inbolu, and all these places from Turkey is from Bulgaria. It's completely connected with Black Sea and Strait of Bosporus in the Black Sea. Please remember, Strait of Bosporus in the Black Sea. And this side, closely look at Syria and Cyprus. Is this part we have Mediterranean Sea located, and these islands are all part of the Greece, the islands of Greek. So they are also important. Now let's look at this. Greece is bordering Bulgaria, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan shares a. You can see a close look at Azerbaijan also. Where is Azerbaijan? You can see, take a close look at even Azerbaijan is also having a small part of that. Let's quickly check it out. It's a very small thing. Even Azerbaijan has a small part on that. Maybe on this side, Armenia, take a look at this side. Azerbaijan, Turkey shares a short border with Azerbaijan in the northeast near the region of Nakhchivan. It's for the northeast part. It's all the northeast part of Turkey. And not only Armenia, Azerbaijan, look at this. Iran, Iraq, it's obvious. And definitely Syria and Mediterranean Sea. Along its south coast, Turkey borders the Mediterranean Sea with the Aegean Sea, Turkey's western coastline, with many shared islands with Greece. So Aegean Sea is very, very important. And the Black Sea. One part of Turkey is Black Sea with the Bosporus Strait, Aegean Sea connecting with Greece. So all this are part of Turkey's important borders. So know about Turkey, the Bosporus Strait, Aegean Sea, etc. So this was an important session on science and technology. I'll come with more important topics for 2024 examination. So please do watch it carefully. So I'll come up with another important session in next class. So until then, it's bye. Please do subscribe to our channel IAS Factor by LearnStroke.